community is really important because there is a learning curve when it comes to being vegan. I've been plant-based for over 20 years. And so it was a real struggle 20 years ago. So I'm not trying to say it's not a struggle now, but it was a struggle.
So do you think, like, there's always like in like the vegan like community, do you think like people that's doing it for health reason and people that's doing like animal reason like butt heads or sometimes or whatever?
So, that's why I prefer to call myself plant-based as opposed to vegan, because the vegan community can be pretty hardcore because there's a lot of ethical things that come into hand, and so and then there are some people who are very passionate about it, and it can be off-putting to people who are trying to enter the lifestyle. So I would say, say you're plant-based and then you're safe. Say you're plant-based and then you're safe. But if you throw out the word vegan, there are a group of people who will hold you accountable. And they can be really rough. I went to a retreat and I went horseback riding, and I had the vegan police came for me. Like, how are you vegan and you riding horses? That's animal cruelty, But, I have my personal opinions. I feel like domestication of animals is animal cruelty, but, I don't take it there. That's my personal opinion. So, yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry they like attacked you because of that.
Yeah, they did. Like, it's just like, wow.
Did you just
it makes me hesitant to post certain things too, because I consider, particularly my Instagram, I consider my place to be a place that I try to make it welcoming and informative for everyone. So, I know a lot of people who follow me who aren't vegan, because I don't just post things about diet, because I really believe it's the lifestyle change that we need, particularly when it comes to women of color. And people of color in general. Like, we need an overhaul in order for us to get to a different place.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. Like, when it also comes with like, you being like plant-based for 21 years and all that, and plus like the health issues you did have and stuff within like the years of building all the projects that you created, were there any particular challenges within creating them projects and stuff?
Sure. I would definitely say that as a dark-skinned, curvy woman of color, I struggle with imposter syndrome. Particularly not just like with food, you can be curvy, but in the yoga space and the holistic wellness space, if you see someone of color, they're definitely not as dark as I am, and sometimes because of how cameras work, people don't really know how dark I am, but I'm pretty high on that melanin scale. And so oftentimes you don't see women like me in that space. And then you definitely don't see women like me in that space who are curvy, or thick, because I'm thick. Make it plain. Where people have challenged me, and I'm like, how are you vegan and you thick? And I'm just like, genetics. And everyone has a different body, but and so for a long time I felt like I was trying to make myself small, or I felt like I needed to be at a certain level of fitness in my body, like showing up in my body, in order for people to take me serious. And so it took me I was doing this work initially by word of mouth. I wasn't really like out on the internet. Like, people knew me as an artist, I'm a visual artist, a jewelry designer, and a spoken word artist. So, that you can show up as you are in that space, but in the wellness space, it's a little bit complicated. So after I did my certification, I started working with clients, but it was just word of mouth and referrals, because I was just like, oh gosh, like I just don't need anyone judging me. And then finally I took the leap I will say because my father had a stroke and that kind of shook me. And I was just like, wow, I have all this information and I'm playing small because of people who might judge me, but no matter what shape I am, somebody's going to judge me. You know what I mean? But they cannot fight my knowledge, right? They can't fight my how much I've learned. My personal experience trumps all of that, And so I came out and I realized that I always like to say, somebody needed my medicine, right? Somebody needed to see me and know that they could be in that space too, which is also why I built the app, because when we think about the health and wellness field, we don't see diversity, we don't see diversity. It's copy, press, play, print, and so I had women come to me, not even women, but I have examples where this one woman said she followed me because I was curvy and I looked like her, Another woman said she followed me because I was Haitian and she knew my vegan food wouldn't be nasty.
Oh my God.
But some people need that kind of reassurance. And I could have taken offense, but I'm like, nah, okay, all right, cool, whatever works. But it was affirming to me too, how I am and how I show up is enough. And I think that's something that we struggle with. And that's, again, why I built the app. So all my instructors are women of color of different ages, different shapes, different sizes, different backgrounds. So that at some point they see someone in this position that, I don't like to use a position of power or a position of power, for lack of better words, that is attainable for them, right? That it's not inaccessible, because here's someone who looks like me and has come from a similar background as me. And if she's doing it, that means I can do it too. Right. And there's other women on this journey. So I know it's not absurd for me to be taking this journey.
Definitely. I definitely took note of the not having a lot of representation in the wellness and the yoga and all that type of stuff, because I'm very active on Twitter, and it's this one girl, she goes to my school. She got into yoga within my undergrad years. I've seen her grow within doing yoga and stuff, and I was I think I want to get into that, but I can never I'm just thinking bro, what if I can't find a space, a yoga space that has a lot of Black women in it, so I just always think about how it's not always representation in some communities for Black women and stuff.
Yeah, and here's the truth: most yoga studios, you will not be the majority. You might be the only woman in the class. There have been moments it was 5 of us and we were all looking hey, how you doing? We up in here, we taking over, but I also do work for me, again, representation and accessibility is so important to me. So for instance, I've taught yoga to a senior program at a YMCA that was I don't like to use the word underserved. It was in the Black community. So the whole senior community was Black. I had 100 seniors between the ages of 55 and 99 doing chair yoga. 75% of them, honestly, about 90% of them had never done yoga before. And sometimes we have to bring it to the spaces and instead of expecting established spaces to create space for us. And so it felt so good because they came afterwards and this one person says, I'm 88 years old and this is the first time I've done yoga. And it felt so good, and it's just well, thank you, use me, Lord.
that definitely fluttered my heart. If you
and I gotta post that. That was a high for me, where I knew I was in alignment with my mission. Or I do work with Black Girl Yoga, which is a online space I'm the representative for the state of Florida. So I create sessions where they can come and we do yoga as a group so they can see each other, you know? But I also say don't not go somewhere because you don't see yourself. You know, if you go, then others will come, you know? So it's just, I feel like there's a balance that is necessary. And again, I've done retreats where it was a space just for Black women, you know? So, but I don't want, because you can't find a studio that has Black teachers and Black peers, that you don't go. It's all, you know, because it's so helpful for what we go through. You know, I'd rather us just, you know, unless the space is absurdly racist and not accepting, go. You know, go.
Definitely.
You know, and those spaces aren't, I've taught in those spaces. Those spaces, you know, we always talk about how the spaces are not accessible from the perspective of being a student, but those spaces aren't even, they're not ready for Black instructors.
Never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've gone into spaces where I was teaching at a studio. They thought I was a student, you know, and then, you know, like, they realized I was a teacher, and it was like, oh, okay, you know, like, I guess I'm not going to have a good class today, you know. And then afterwards, they're like, oh my God, that class was so amazing. And I'm just like, is it amazing because you had established low expectations for me because I'm a woman of color, and you have, you know, subconsciously you've been programmed to expect a certain framework around Blackness, you know? So yeah. And that's why I created the app. Like, again, a safe space where we don't have to process all of that, you know?
So what is wellness to you? And do you think it's like a general definition of wellness, or do you think different people have different definitions of wellness?
I think wellness is an individual, it's personal, and it's where a person is of sound mind, body, and spirit. It's hard for me to say balance because sometimes we think everything should be equal, and it doesn't always work like that. You can be really good physically and be upside down mentally, but just a space where you're in a good space in regards to your personal health from a perspective of mind, body, spirit. So I don't believe wellness is one size fits all, which is why I feel like there is a makeover that needs to happen in the wellness space, because you always say you should do this or you should do that, and it doesn't, you know, work like that. Like right now I'm teaching I teach a West African dance class to little girls, and I have one little girl who has a very strong internal hip rotation. Makes, you know, colloquially they would call her pigeon-toed, right? So because I'm trained to like adjust according to, my training has helped me be a better teacher. So when I set my students up, I'll tell her, you know, your feet have to be a little bit wider to give your hips a little bit more space, because otherwise you're going to trip and fall, you know. But, you know, when we do fitness things, they don't say like, well, we assume we create things based on the majority and ignore the variability that might exist, right? And then we assume that we're all the same, and we're not. Even as people of color, we're not, you know, like, so what works for me might not work for you based on my genetics, my environment, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's really that's really good to say, especially like with like when you're saying that what works for one person don't works for other, because I've noticed like how a lot of like celebrities and stuff, they get like criticism. Like Lizzo, she gets criticism all the time despite the fact that she works out and stuff, but because people see her as a larger woman, they always criticize her and stuff depending on like what she does.
Yeah. And so really what we need to be teaching people is to learn how to listen to their body. because your body is your best compass. It will tell you what works for it, and it will tell you what doesn't work for it if you listen.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. So my next question is, with everything that like you accomplished and all that, like your resume is very stellar, I said at the beginning of the interview, what is next for you? Like, is there any certain direction you want to go into? Is it a new direction you want to go to? Like, what's next on your agenda, if you mind me asking?
I want to have a holistic wellness center, a holistic wellness center that people can come to. Yeah. So that's my ultimate goal.
That sounds really amazing. Like, that's like the big time goal, like big time goal.
Yeah, like lots of land, big space. Come here, rest.
Very important on the rest.
Get your heel on, rest, get your heel on. And, I also want to make sure that people who are wellness practitioners can thrive. So also paying them livable wages, because a lot of times being a wellness practitioner doesn't necessarily, it can be a struggle, especially when you have a focus of working in certain communities.
So what advice would you give a person that want to enter like the occupation of what you're doing?
Make sure you're living what you're preaching.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, make sure you're living what you're preaching. If you and be okay with, make sure you're living what you're preaching. So I see a trend where people will learn something and then all of a sudden now they're teaching it, and you're like, you haven't even really applied it in your life. And there's theory and then there's practice. Theory sets you up to go into the real world, but there's nothing like experience, personal experience, because it is going to show you and inform you in ways that a teacher in a classroom and a book and a course will never inform you.
Wow, that's really good. Okay, so at the end of like every interview, we like to ask our guests, what does true urban culture mean to you? Simply because when you get asked that question, it could have a different definition to you, just like I have a different definition of it when I was asked that question.
True urban culture? To me, true urban culture changes depending on where you know why this is complicated for me. I'm a first gen.
Yeah.
I'm a first gen. So like urban culture here and urban culture there looks different. I think it's raw and unfiltered and spicy and dynamic.
That's a wonderful definition. It's different for everybody else, because when I answered the question, I connected to cultures and how different cultures can come together. It was just it's different definitions for almost everybody, but I definitely like your definition of it.
Yeah.
So that was my very last question. Thank you so much for this opportunity of interviewing you. I'm definitely going to check out like many of the things you told me, especially with the yoga, because I told myself like this year I need to tap into more fitness and stuff with like just to get in tune of my body, because sometimes I don't be knowing what's up with my body. And I was like, I think I want to get into yoga. At first it was like roller skating, because I was on TikTok and I was like, oh, I know how to roller skate. I want to learn how to roller skate really well. And that's how I was like, okay, I think I want to do yoga. So I think I definitely want to tap into that.
I'm actually going to get into roller skating because that's something I always wanted to do. So
really, yeah, I like see the girls on TikTok and they be like roller skating in the park, and I'll be like, wow, they look so pretty doing it. Like they make it look so cool.
Yeah, but the other thing is they don't be showing the fall. I like the raw, like
the raw legit.
Yeah, like, because I know my first couple of weeks, I'm going to have a helmet on, some elbow and knee pads.
I haven't been roller skating in so long. Like the last time I believe I went roller skating, I knew how to roller skate, but my best friend, she didn't. Like, so we were trying to teach her, and like she got the hang of it. And then like two girls were like horse playing on the rink, and they bumped into my best friend. My best friend fell and hit our head on the floor, and we never went back. Like, we never went back.
We would go to the roller rink, blah, 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 and this girl broke her leg there.
Oh my gosh. I was like,
yeah, like, so like we would take field trips, and I was starting to learn, and the girl broke her leg, and I tried to get my dad bought me some skates, and I fell one time. My mom returned the skates. So like, I'm like, I need to reclaim this desire to roller skate. So
it's definitely a funny story. Yeah, but we never went back. Like, I literally was on the phone with my mom. She's like, where are you guys at? I'm like, we're in the emergency room. We're just checking to make sure our head is okay. But we never went back. But that's like one thing I want to get into. But thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you.
It was nice speaking to you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. You stay safe also. I know this pandemic and stuff, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So you stay safe also.
Yeah, definitely. Same to you.